In a city where justice and corruption collide, one man's greed threatens to unravel everything. Meet Officer Grant, a cop with a badge but no morals, running a shadowy empire of dirty deals and dangerous alliances. Across the line is Agent Ramirez, a fearless DEA officer with a reputation for taking down even the most elusive criminals. When their worlds clash, it's more than just a battle of wits. It's a race against time. Ramirez is closing in, piecing together clues that could expose Grant's hidden network. But just as he gets closer, an unexpected twist changes everything. Who can Ramirez really trust? And how far will Grant go to protect his secrets? The line between hero and villain begins to blur, leaving us questioning. What happens when justice isn't as black and white as it seems? Stick around. This story is only getting started. Officer Grant wasn't always corrupt. Once, he was the golden boy of the force, the kind of cop who believed in doing the right thing. But somewhere along the way, temptation got the better of him. It started small, a favor for a friend, a blind eye turned for quick cash. But as the years went on, the deals grew bigger, the stakes higher, until Grant found himself in too deep to ever turn back. Now, he's at the center of a web of crime that's as intricate as it is dangerous. On the other side, Agent Ramirez is relentless. He's been tracking an elusive drug operation for months, and every lead seems to circle back to Grant. But something doesn't add up. Ramirez begins uncovering strange inconsistencies, missing evidence, erased files, and whispers of a bigger player pulling the strings. Is Grant the mastermind, or just another pawn in a much larger game? Grant could feel the walls closing in. The whispers about Ramirez digging into his business had reached him, and for the first time in years, he felt uneasy. His connections in the underworld had always kept him safe. Crooked lawyers, paid-off informants, and even a few politicians willing to look the other way. But Ramirez wasn't like the others. He wasn't intimidated, couldn't be bought, and was getting closer by the day. Meanwhile, Ramirez was beginning to feel the pressure too. His superiors were demanding results, and the deeper he dug, the murkier the truth became. Grant wasn't acting alone, that much was clear. But every time Ramirez thought he'd uncovered a key piece of the puzzle, it slipped away, like someone was always one step ahead of him. Then, a sudden break in the case. A mysterious tip leads Ramirez to a warehouse. What he finds there changes everything, but it's only the beginning. The warehouse was dark and eerily quiet, the kind of place where secrets lived and danger thrived. Ramirez approached cautiously, his instincts on high alert. Inside, scattered files and empty crates hinted at something big, but it was what he didn't see that set his nerves on edge. Just as he began to piece together the clues, a noise from the shadows froze him in place. He wasn't alone. Meanwhile, Grant was growing desperate. The tip about the warehouse wasn't an accident. It was a trap, carefully set to lure Ramirez into a dangerous game. Grant had spent years covering his tracks, but this time, the stakes were different. The powerful figures he once trusted were starting to turn on him, and the pressure to eliminate Ramirez was mounting. As Ramirez searched the warehouse, he stumbled upon something chilling, a hidden ledger detailing transactions that pointed to someone higher up than Grant. Before he could process what it meant, the sound of footsteps behind him made his heart race. The confrontation he'd been preparing for was finally here, but nothing could have prepared him for what was about to happen. Ramirez turned quickly, his hand instinctively reaching for his weapon, only to come face to face with someone he never expected. Agent Carter, his own partner. "Carter? What are you doing here?" Ramirez demanded, his voice sharp with confusion. But Carter didn't answer immediately. Instead, he gave a tight, uneasy smile, his eyes darting toward the ledger in Ramirez's hand. That's when it clicked. Ramirez felt a cold wave of realization wash over him. Carter wasn't here to back him up. He was here to clean up. The betrayal hit hard, but there was no time to process it. "You've been getting too close," Carter finally said, his voice low. "You don't understand how deep this goes. Walk away while you can. Ramirez's mind raced. If Carter was involved, how many others had been protecting Grant's operation? And worse, who was really calling the shots? Before Ramirez could respond, a screech of tires echoed outside the warehouse. More players were entering the game, and Ramirez suddenly found himself caught in a deadly trap. One wrong move, and he wouldn't make it out alive. The sound of tires screeching was followed by the harsh glow of headlights flooding the warehouse. Ramirez knew time had run out. Carter's calm demeanor vanished as armed men poured into the building. Grant stepped out from the shadows, his smug grin revealing he'd orchestrated this moment. "You really thought you'd outsmart me?" Grant said, his voice dripping with arrogance. But Ramirez wasn't done yet. He'd anticipated something like this and had tipped off a trusted team before coming here. As Grant gloated, the sound of helicopters overhead and sirens closing in shattered his confidence. The warehouse was surrounded. Chaos erupted. Ramirez fought his way through the confusion, determined to bring Grant down. But just as he cornered Grant, another twist unfolded. Grant wasn't the real mastermind. Before Ramirez could arrest him, Grant whispered, "You think you've won? You have no idea who you're really up against." As federal agents stormed the building and cuffed Grant, Ramirez stared at him, realizing the game wasn't over. Somewhere out there, a bigger player was still in control, watching and waiting. As Grant was hauled away, Ramirez stood in the aftermath of the chaos, his mind racing with unanswered questions. The operation was a success. Grant's network was dismantled, and many of his accomplices were in custody. But the ominous warning Grant had left behind lingered. Ramirez knew this wasn't the end. It was just a crack in the surface of a far deeper conspiracy. Back at the precinct, Ramirez sifted through the ledger, piecing together fragments of a larger puzzle. The names and numbers hinted at someone powerful, someone who had been using Grant as a pawn all along. It wasn't just about drugs or corruption anymore, it was about control. Though Ramirez had won this battle, he couldn't shake the feeling that a bigger war was coming. As he walked out into the night, he made a quiet promise to himself. No matter how dangerous it got, he wouldn't stop until the real mastermind was exposed.